Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. Today we've got a special guest coming on the show to talk to us about his project. We've got Damon, who is the co-founder and main spokesperson for Charli3. So welcome on board, Damon.
Hey, thanks for having me. Really excited. We talked a long time ago about getting this done, and now we're finally here.
Absolutely. I think me and you first made contact into the Alonso hard fork before that had even
Yeah,
been released, and we spoke about what was going to happen and not happen on the back end of that. But this has been long
yeah,
overdue, I
or
think.
mostly not happen at this point.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So maybe a little bit about yourself, Damon. If you just start with a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into Charli3.
Sure, let's do a small personal history, and then I'll get into the other stuff. So my background in anything has been very sports and medical related, actually. So all these peers from pole vaulting I did in university. I did
Wow.
gymnastics before that, high level competitor, international level competition in all sports I've done. And finally done with that. But in university and stuff too, I did mainly medical based stuff. I'm trained nurse. I did kinesiology, biomechanics was my specialty there. I did almost a full degree in anatomy and cell biology. And then people go, how do you get into crypto after that? Like, it's not the same. This is finance, this is tech. It's like there's so many transferable skills you might not know you have. Like, so for me, critical analysis huge from the medical side of things, and sports as well. Critical analysis, understanding, removing yourself from a situation. Like, I did a lot of sports psychology stuff. If something's going crazy, you got to be able to look from a third party perspective on your own, right? Removing emotion from things. Like I said, the critical analysis researching is a huge deal in the medical side. Helped me a lot getting up to speed in crypto, for sure. And communications is another huge thing, and that's my specialty within the crypto space here, is to do comms and marketing and reading the market psychology at the time, and understanding what position that we need to take. So there's a ton of transferable skills, and that's how I got into where I'm at with crypto.
It's very interesting because how does anybody get into crypto? They often stumble upon it. And
Yeah.
you are right. Lots of your real life experiences often transfer over to this space.
Hmm.
And it's exciting time. Today is interesting because it's currently the 11th of the 5th, which anybody
Yeah.
who's watching this video, this is going to come out, of course, after today. You'll notice the markets are in a bit of disarray. But this is why I love having people like Damon come on the show, because the building doesn't stop. Nothing has come to a halt. The only thing that's really changed
No.
is the price.
Yeah. We're actually scaling still. We're still hiring more people right now. Like, I think today we're actually bring on another developer, and we're promoting some of our people internally. Like, it doesn't stop at all. You're right.
Absolutely not. And things keep moving and progressing. And this is what people often take their eyes off, given the market sentiment. However, if you focus on what's being built, I think that's one of the keys to longevity. Let's get into a little bit about C3, a little bit about Charli3, which of course many of you will or perhaps not know, and this may be your first time hearing about it, is an oracle that is native to Cardano.
Yeah. So we can talk about that. I mean, obviously, I'm sure we're going to jump into this topic a little bit later, but the largest oracle currently is called Chainlink. Most people know what it is purely by just looking at the charts. It's like somewhere usually between 15 and 20, right, on the charts. And so, yeah, it's a big deal. Why is an oracle such a big deal? Well, blockchain tech, smart contracts can't interact with outside data that's off of any blockchain, or out in the real world, stocks and forex and weather, or what have you, any kind of data. And an oracle is a specialized piece of software, basically, that is able to take that data, basically retranslate it into whatever code base is needed to be able to be readable by these projects. So anything that's doing betting or randomness, or presenting different values to you on chain, if they're being safe about it, they're using an oracle system to do that, because it takes many multiple points of the same set of data, because the way that dexes work with their slippage and whatever, with their liquidity, is that they're always going to have a slightly different price of the same asset on every single centralized exchange or dex or whatever. And so what an oracle does is it takes all of those, puts them together, throws out the bad values that might be hacked or whatever, gets a concentralized, like, center point that's kind of an average or a mean value. Ours is or a median. So ours is the median. Chainlink also uses the median value and presents that to all of the projects they're connected with. So now your entire ecosystem and you as a trader are trading on the exact same value. So there's less volatility, there's more trust in what you're trading in, and it's more stable. So basically all of DeFi ever anywhere doesn't exist without oracles. And we are the only solution currently for the entire Cardano, upcoming Cardano network of DeFi dApps to use as an oracle. So it's kind of a exciting time for us.
Absolutely. And just to stress the point that you just made, you wouldn't have DeFi without oracles.
Yeah.
You know, I have been in DeFi.
People don't know about them. They're sitting on the back end, right?
Even though they're a fundamental part of any ecosystem, certainly a DeFi ecosystem. And without an oracle, again, you wouldn't have DeFi. And this is extremely exciting. You guys are really the leading oracle on top of Cardano. And, you know, it's something that's really exciting to see how things progress. We'll pull up some partners that you guys already have integrated in a moment. Sure. But what are you really, you know, you mentioned Chainlink there. How do you feel, and we did mention this off camera, about going into battle essentially with Chainlink for the Cardano space? Because they are the dominant oracle at the moment across most chains. And we know at the Cardano Summit, we had the announcement for a partnership with Chainlink. How do you guys feel you're going to fare against the likes of Chainlink? Because Chainlink aren't Cardano native, which I don't think many people actually even understand.
Yeah, they're not Cardano native at all. I mean, building in Plutus infrastructure is incredibly niche and difficult. There's not many projects. Most Cardano native tokened projects have no code in Plutus or which is the Cardano native Haskell derivative, basically. So there's only a few projects that are actually native, and Chainlink is for sure not one of them. We're not really sure why that announcement was made, to be honest. A lot of the dApp community building in Cardano has no idea. Some of the people at IOG I've talked to don't even know why that was made. So it's kind of a mystery, and we're not really sure what's happening on the back end of that. But however, I mean, we always expected competition. There's always going to be competition, especially for such a core piece of infrastructure that needs to be there. And it's basically like we're a corner store and these guys are Walmart. You know, they're just going to come and try and crush wherever they can. And Cardano is such a huge potential ecosystem. Of course, they're going to try and move over. And of course, you know, someone like Charles or the Cardano Foundation is going to try and get that kind of a partnership to make everything look better and more stable. But as is, they have no solution for Cardano. They can't integrate with Cardano. As far as we know, they're trying to build some sort of a layer 2 to wrap their stuff in to then present it almost like an API to other chains. But that doesn't mean it's being secured natively. You know, the one big benefit of Cardano is the security with the Haskell and Plutus code, the speed of transactions, the potential upside of scalability with the market, and the cost. We can take advantage of all of that as being a native built oracle. Other oracle solutions like Chainlink can't. They can present their data. It's going to be way more slow because it has to get transacted on Ethereum. It's going to be way more expensive because of that. And now you're adding another bridging layer element in there, so it's less secure. And security is the name of the game for oracle solutions, because you're supplying an entire ecosystem with trading volume and data, right? So we felt we needed to be fully Cardano native that way, and kind of corner that market as much as possible.
I think that's a huge advantage that you have. You know, there's always room for error when you have to wrap things and you have to sort of take them from one chain onto another. And you guys are starting from Cardano up. You know, you're starting, you're not building your oracle to suit any other chain. This is a Cardano specific oracle. And you touched on a few things there that I think are amazing points. One of them was just how early DeFi is. The potential for Cardano's DeFi is insane. It's huge. And you guys are tethered, bonded, if you will, to the succession of that, I think, in many ways.
Yeah.
Because as it grows, you're going to grow with it, which is a very interesting predicament I think you guys find yourselves in. And, you know, you alluded to the fact there was always going to be competition. There are other oracles building on top of Cardano.
Yeah.
How the next thing I really want to sort of go on to is how have you found your sort of integration onto, and what I'm going to do over this is overlay a picture of the partners that you currently have taken from your website. How have you found your integration with Cardano in terms of partnerships? Have you had a good response, or how has that kind of been?
Yeah, it's been interesting, and this is where kind of I would say an educational point comes into view that we kind of specified before, that not many projects are actually Cardano native, and so we're trying to get as many partners up as possible. We just like to call them integrations, not partners, because it's like we're not doing anything for them; they're purchasing our service, so it's an integration. And how's it been? I mean, it's been interesting so far because we're coming across a ton of projects that are coming towards us to ask for Oracle data, like in the upcoming times that actually the system goes live. And we can't provide it to them because they're actually not built Haskell and Plutus native. And we can only supply people that are, because our stuff goes through the UTXO model, which is the Cardano kind of native model to deal with things. And it's unfortunate to see, like, there's not a lot of Haskell built projects. And so we have a lot of these partnerships or integrations on the website are promised because these guys are built in, Ethereum. They're trying to do an EVM solution. So we have to wait until we have some sort of an off-chain API. The best thing so far is that Chainlink actually has tried to come in and ask a ton of people, use us instead for the future. And they've said, no, we don't want to do that. We want to support our own thing. So maybe this is a good thing about Cardano specifically, is that because the loyalty is there, they want to support the native built projects that are going to support the rest of the ecosystem, not something off chain, but integrating with other projects. The ones that do want to work with us, like I said, have been fantastic. There's been a lot of great communications back and forth for the upcoming hard forks and whatnot to get the ecosystem up and running. And I'd say paramount on top of that, the best ones have been Indigo, ViFinance, and Giro Wallet. By far, just great teams to work with, and they're all very excited about trying to work together and pump up the ecosystem as much as possible.
They all have a really amazing community behind them as well that's very loyal. I think lots of these projects that you just mentioned, they all have a great community behind them, and I think there's a lot of people out there that will want to support a Cardano native Oracle, certainly myself including. It's going to be nice to have a ecosystem built from the ground up and somewhere that we've not taken from elsewhere. Of course, there's going to be competition and rivalry within that, but certainly C3 is a project that I'm looking at as a Cardano native Oracle that's, I think, is worth supporting. And
I think so too.
Yeah, you've got to say that. It is very interesting. And like I say, when do you think you guys are actually going to when will people actually be using C3 as a service? Now, that is a question that is going to be probably nearly impossible to answer, but roughly, is there something you could give me?
It is and it isn't. So there's two ways of this. So right now, we could actually get up and running at any point, but not using the full read-only UTXO datum read model that is the promise of Cardano, basically. So that model won't be available until PAB stuff is done, basically after the Vasil Hardfork, after all these things. So maybe mid-July, but that's a big old maybe, with Cardano delays and everything. But there's no projects on Cardano that have currently launched that actually need any Oracle data. So it's the only reason we haven't launched. And people go, oh, well, why haven't you launched? Why aren't you running Oracle feeds? It costs us money to run Oracle feeds. We have to purchase that data. We have to get our devs on it. We have to create the software to pull it through. We have to run servers to manage that cloud servers as well that we will have to pay to operate. It costs a bunch of money. It's like the people purchasing the data to use in their systems is at a premium, because of our services to bring it on. And then we make money off of that. We can't just burn and burn and burn just to show that we have something up. However, within about a month and a half, maybe, we'll have our first set of oracles running that are the free community price feeds that we have won funding for through Catalyst, that we are matching ourselves. So we got 50K, we're matching 50K. We've talked to the IOG about potentially doing the same thing. They're interested, but and that will provide free oracles to the first kind of projects that pump up on Cardano over the next year. So they don't have to pay for it. Bootstraps the entire community. And yeah, we plan to have those up within about a month and a half.
Yeah, that is, of course, a big maybe, guys. You know, in the crypto space, things often do get delayed. So just, you know, take whatever dates are given with a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
That's not a definite. These are all targets that people are working towards.
Yeah.
And often people don't realize the costs associated in the back end. Everybody's only looking at the token. Nobody really pays much attention to what's going on in the back end. But of course, there's costs at every point. And that's great that IOG are matching you guys to sort of provide free Oracle services to the Cardano ecosystem. Goes to show that you guys are a very, very dedicated ADA application, you know,
Yes.
and you're doing that running alongside IOG, which is very nice to see, actually. Can we talk a little bit about the token? Can we talk about potentially some of the tokenomics? And can we also talk about
talk about the new tokenomics, because the current one is not viable.
Yes, we can also talk, because C3 originally launched on Ethereum. It was originally developed as an ERC20 token. That has now, and there is now, a bridge for anybody looking to make that transition, available by, I believe, Milkomeda's bridge. So do you want to talk a little bit about the tokenomics, give us a little bit of background on them, and then go into where we finish on the ERC20 bridge?
Yeah, for sure. So the main chunk of the tokenomics that's changing, that it just hasn't been updated yet. Basically, we're getting to it. Is, I think there's currently 36%, if you look at the wheel we have on the website, that's set to node operator rewards. But in our initial model, we were going to end up paying out those rewards. So we needed a bunch of tokens for that. But in our current model, and how it's actually going to work, is that through the projects paying for Oracle data, they're not paying us directly, they're paying the node operators directly. So they purchase tokens. The projects have to purchase Charli3 tokens in order to get the Oracle. So that's another reason for price action, if you're ever worrying about it. So they purchase tokens, and then the projects pay the node operators directly for proper data that gets pulled through. And so that's kind of how that system works. And so we don't need a chunk to allocate towards that. So now we are going to be splitting up that 36% into other things that we currently didn't have, like staking rewards, which we never were going to do. But now, because we changed the system, we can do staking rewards for people. The team allocation, I think, is 20%. And people go, ooh, that's super high. It's one thing you have to realize is that's broken down into many categories of team. You know, some of that goes to the founders. Of course, everybody takes a piece of their company, but the rest, like more than 50% of it, is all for future team hires. And if we need to sell off tokens in order to get a certain amount of funding to get a new team member on, like a new developer to do more, like get more systems up and running, or new projects, like that's all part of team tokens for us. So it's not actually that high. We're not being greedy monsters like some other folks are. So the tokenomics that way is really set to support our growth, and sustain what we currently have. So yeah, I think it's actually pretty well set out, but we'll have a new one up hopefully relatively soon on, so it's more accurate.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And then where does that leave people that perhaps purchased ERC20 tokens, the C3 ERC20 tokens? Where are they currently? Because their bridge has now gone live, so you can actually bring over your ERC20s to a native Cardano token. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the ERC20 is still viable. Like it's not going to lose its value or anything, but you're not going to get any benefit from it. So like any kind of staking stuff is all going to be on Cardano. Any kind of things that, I don't know, come up later for, say, node operators, they'll have to buy in to be a node operator. That's only on Cardano native. So the ERC20 tokens, you can still keep them stored in your wallets or whatever if you want. But if you want any kind of utility or to trade them easier without crazy gas fees and stuff, yeah, pop them over through the Nomad/Milkomeda bridge. If you're looking for a guide on that, just look in our either in our chats, Ask the Mods, or through our Twitter stuff. There's tons of guides on there through our Twitter to bridge over your tokens.
And what I'll do, guys, is I'll leave a link to C3's website. I'll leave a link to their Twitter feed, their Discord, and everything, so you guys can go and have a little look for yourself. Damon, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I could sit here for hours talking to you. We've already spoken.
We often do, yeah.
For a while off camera. But thank you very much for coming on. That's exactly what I wanted, a short and sweet kind of update on C3 and maybe a little introduction to those that aren't familiar with it. So thank you very much for coming on, Damon. It's always a pleasure, and I look forward to speaking to you again.
Thanks so much. Really looking forward to it.